Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And thank you for being here and giving me the opportunity to talk about how to engage youth and the community into gardening or farming. My name is Farmer TC. I reside in Washtenaw County. Washtenaw County is on the southeast of Michigan. In that county, there are only 2 black farmers out of 4,300 farmers. I'm the oldest registered farmer of 50 years plus. I love gardening and farming. It's something that I would just happen to be born in. My 2 great-great-grandparents were slaves or enslaved residents. My grandparents were sharecroppers. My mom was a domestic worker, and my father was a auto assembly line worker. So for myself, I had the luxury of not knowing what is a enslaved resident, what is a sharecropper, what was a domestic worker, but I knew what a factory worker was. So for me, I took all that skill set throughout the years and incorporated gardening and farming programs. It was something that I hustled with. And what I mean by hustling, Wednesdays and Saturday mornings, I would go and knock on doors, fresh produce, fresh fruit. That was my hustling job. And the money that I saved up, I just collected over the years. Down the road from there, I was involved in a car accident. Get ready to go to the next slide. Thank you. I was involved in a car accident, hit by a drunk driver, in a coma for 6 months. So from that point, I had to relearn, regroup, rethink, and rebuild my lifestyle. It did not stop my spirit. For that, I could not be a professional chef the way I wanted to be. This is my son here. At the time, he was a young gentleman. I named our, at the time, catering company, Tucker's Catering, because I named it after my son. I had to retire that because of the disability that I had. I have an invisible disability. So I still had roots in algaculture. That's where I developed classrooms, programming for the community. In the community that I was in, out in Willow Run, they called me the ghetto gardener because at that time, I was growing produce, flowers for myself and giving that out to the community itself. I never looked for money for that. I never sit there and said I needed to sell that. That was my way of giving back to the community because being disabled, I was forced to being homeless. And when you receive food, they give you a box of food they are canned goods. Being homeless, you don't have a place to heat it. You don't have a place to cook it. So that put more stress, more depression on an individual like me. I gave up that theory and said, you know what, I'm just going to start growing and eat off the land. With that, there was children that was walking back and forth by my apartment, and they said, what is that? And I said, what is what? And I said, what flower or what plant are you looking at? The green one. And the young man said, that's his favorite color. And I said, before we talk anymore, go ask your parents, can we have a conversation? Excuse me. No problem. And reason why, because being an adult, talking to children, it looks bad. So to be safe, they went and talked to their parents. Their parents said it was okay, that they could come back and learn about what I'm doing. From that young gentleman came back and said, can you teach me how to grow that flower? And I said, this flower is called the Bells of Ireland. That was his favorite plant. From that point onward, he was like 4 or 5 years old. He was always interested in growing green plants, spinach, lettuce, anything green that didn't have another color, that's what he wanted to do. From that point onward, he had other friends of his age that were older, and he had one sister that was probably about 1 year younger than him. She could not speak as well because he had a learning deficit problem. She would say her S's differently, so they would kind of tease her. But I talked to the kids and said, you know what? This is a strawberry. Let's say it together. And with that, it taught the kids not to tease by the word strawberry. Now we showed them these are strawberries, these are daffodils, and we got to teach them different plants to cherish. It started off at a one-bedroom apartment, ended up being the whole block in that community. 18 gardens were established in the ghetto or in the low-income community. From that point onward, gardening and farming took off. My son here started taking flowers. He was taking pictures of every time I would grow daffodils, tulips. He would take pictures of it. He even went on a trip to, when he got older with his mom, to go to Holland to see the Holland fields out there in West Michigan. That was something that I didn't force upon him. It was something that he himself wanted to do. From that point onward, I had to move out of that community, put the garden to rest, replaced it, put grass there, moved into another apartment, started teaching how to grow potatoes. The potatoes program took off, teaching the kids and the community the proper aspect of potatoes. Then that's when the potato program took off. So what we do is build trust in the community, build teamwork, build education, build vibrant ways of food sustainable practices, also wellness. Again, this is my introduction. My name is Farmer TC with over 50 years of gardening and farming. It's something that I truly love. I teach people how to grow gardens indoors as well as outdoors. I'm the only one that's in the Great Lakes region that teaches garden and farming programs year-round, 365 days out of the year, which means all year. Reason why is because I had depression. In order to fight depression, I had to stay with plants, had to stay in food. So I developed a program, how to fight the winter blues, growing herbs inside, garlic, pansies, violas, Johnny jump-ups. And then I said, you know what? I'm getting a kick out of growing this indoors in the wintertime. Started buying, at the time, they were regular fluorescent lights like this, putting them up way before LEDs started. People started saying, well, why you got the bright lights on? Why are you growing that? Because it's keeping me from being into depression. I'm not saying not take depression medicine, still stick with your doctor, but for me, I did not want to be hooked on phonics in that type of category. So I needed to stay around greenery. Started making that program, and now every year people talk about, can we take that class for teaching me how to grow indoors? Then I talk about how to grow your herbs. That's where I came across this program. This is from the USDA. Grow it, try it, and like it. With that program, it's getting the kids to be active with food. The first thing they're going to say is, yuck, I don't want to try that. That's nasty. He has to eat it. They would rather not eat and eat snacks or drink up a lot of water than eat anything. So for me, we started a preschool program where we go into the preschool school system and say, we supply the fruit and vegetables, we provide the programming, and here we go. We let all the kids try twice a week different types of vegetable. Could be spinach this week and butternut squash. The following week, it could be radish, and pick a radish that they've never seen before. So what we do is grow different types of radishes across the spectrum, from a black radish to the watermelon radish. And reason for teaching kids preschool age, they don't know anything else but here's some food, here's some Cheetos. They will eat both. And they're not going to be taught, yuck, that's nasty. But when you get to the older children, they make that decision, I don't want that. I get something else. And they will eat a bag of chips and be full off of that. So that's why we diversify the food aspect. So yes, that is a program with the USDA. So this is what I talk about. You try it and you learn it. Learning what is today. What is today is most important, because we may go in the community not liking this color, may not like you because of your religion, may not like you because you might be too skinny. Food is just food. We make those boundaries. So when we have this one, We want you to try it and like it and make sure that you try 2 new vegetables with the youth so that way it opens the rainbow. Using the rainbow is very important because there are pink vegetables. There are purple vegetables. There's yellow vegetables. Giving that to kids at any age and showing them that there's diversity. Even if you're vegan, vegetarian, if you are in different faith belief, and if you have to practice Sabbath, food rules. Food is the language. We do have to pay respect to either as God, Jehovah, Jesus, Allah, but the main, most important thing is that don't set boundaries. Next one. Now, you see up here, it says STEAAM. I advocate that because in my community, they took the arts out. Taking the arts out was very displeasing for our generation. Cannot draw. Cannot do ballerina. Yes, boys, men can do ballerina. Taking out anything that deal with art had a devastating impact on communities. So for me, with the programs that we try to create and do create, we put the A back into STEM and we make it a STEAM with an extra A into it. So that way we're incorporating art in the garden, poetry in the garden, yoga in the garden. This is not something that we just started 2 years ago. We've been doing this for many years. We also bring agriculture in the garden because when children or adults have learning disabilities, have disabilities, or have autism, colors, sound, sight, feel, these are feelings that are connected to the garden. Try running through a garden and grab some raspberries and take off running again. Those thorns are going to stop you. Try running downhill with a 300-pound pumpkin. That's strength. Those are mechanics that are taught early in life. You just don't be an adult and start saying, hey, I'm going to start picking some fruit without knowing. Because when you write, those are motor skills. When you go and reach for a rose, and your mind has to think and to adjust how to put so much pressure on holding that rose. Am I going to embrace it with the thorns, or am I going to rethink and grab it in the right direction? How to pick calendula. And calendula itself has a lot of resin. So you have to think, how do I not get that resin on my hand? And put it into a bag or a basket without it sticking on your hand. These are skills that when you work with preschoolers, they want to be taught. So we're teaching them, the future generation, on how to hold and pick and carry and shove and pull plants. So STEM is very important. Now, this one, let's go back to STEM. STEM and STEAM are okay. But if you take out the A in agriculture and the A in art, it is just STEM. What happened to all the generational people that are doing these things? Science. Science is most important. Having a bug or an insect safari is very important. Because think of a kid being 3 years old and you give them a bag of worms and a bag of ladybugs. You're not seeing anything different than what we see today. The first thing they're going to do is say, oh, I want to see. We teach them as adults, oh, don't touch that, get away. Those are bugs. That's contagious because now they got that fear growing into them every time they see a bug. So teaching them about a insect safari, it teaches them to, hey, you know what, let's go out and look for grasshoppers. Let's connect back to nature. Let's touch dirt. Let's have a day that we're going to make mud pies, for real. Let's wear white. Let's go and make some mud pies. And let's be good at making a mess. Because going back to nature, smelling the dirt, touching the dirt, creating how much water goes into that dirt to get the right consistency to make a patty, it explodes endorphins from within us. Also at the same time, butterflies. That journey of the butterfly, the monarch butterfly travels over 3,000 miles from Canada, United States to Mexico. Think about it this way. On a less windy day, that butterfly travels 17 miles. On a less windy day. That's a lot of. Now on a windy day, it can double that to almost triple that. You can go 73 miles on a windy day, flying around, one way, one direction. The monarch butterfly is very important. Teaching the youth about pesticides, poisons, chemicals. Why are they needed? Why are they not needed? Why do we have to save the monarch butterfly? Because it's an endangered species. Why? Because making seed bombs or biscuits, which we create all the time, which we use recycled paper, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, is that we want to have milkweed plants stay alive. Because a lot of communities, they don't have milkweed. There are over 20 different varieties of milkweed, but the average person only knows of one. In order to save the monarch, we have to give them their food back. Teaching the kids how to learn the life cycle of a butterfly, from a pupa to a larva to a chrysalis back to a butterfly, and it takes off. That butterfly, you're teaching it about the facts of life by preserving the facts of life through a butterfly. And that child will always remember to cherish butterflies for the rest of their life. Because if you don't give them the opportunity to teach about the flight and a path and where it goes, like I said earlier, 17 miles on a non-windy day, think about how many breaks that butterfly took to rest. Quite a few. And for me, looking at that, that's how many times the butterfly try to look for a sourcing of food. And if it doesn't find food, it starves itself until it finds food. So teaching the youth about the monarch butterfly and even other butterflies is very crucial and important. Then we have crayons. Crayons are most important in a child's life. The first thing they do is break them. It's okay to break crayons because you know why? Get silicone molds, get all the broken crayons together, turn it on a low heat in your oven, put it on a baker's tray, put those broken crayons into those molds, let it melt gently, and take it out and let it cool. Now you have a collage of different colors and one little cube of different colors. Now let them color. That's art of expression. Get a child mad. Take away their tablet. Take away their phone. I guarantee you, you left some markers in that room. It's on that wall. It's on their clothes. It's on their hands. Because messes have no boundaries. It's okay to have a mess. It goes back to the mud pies. We just have to have a time out and just be ourselves and just say, hey, you know what? It's okay to make mud. That will make a kid so happy. Invest in some rain boots. A pair for yourself and a pair for your child. So that way when you want to go out one day and you ain't got nothing else to do, you don't want to go to the mall, the sports is on TV, there's too much political stuff on TV, go out on a rainy day and get wet and stomp in the mud, stomp in the water, because that releases energy. Why? It goes back to nature. It goes back to science. What does that solve when you make a puddle? Enjoyment. How many have a group that gets together and say, let's go have a rain day. Let's go and stomp in some puddles. Let's go and make some mud. Nobody has planned that. Let's go back to what we were told not to do and do it. So that way you keep that going for the next generation. Because if we get to 2030 and we have the COVID generational kids that were locked up, that they could not go out and be in the schools while we had COVID, yes, that is a generational COVID generation. Antisocial, social, not being around, not socially active. Those 3 years that we had COVID, we learned so much that we could not do, that we're still trying to get back to doing that we could not do. So when we get to 2030, and those children that was 3 years old, that could not do in that 3-year span, they don't have skills that we did not give them. Nobody's thinking about mud pies. Nobody's thinking about monarch butterflies. Nobody's thinking about ladybugs. Nobody's thinking about caterpillars. We're thinking about technology. Children are very important. They hold the key to food. And if we don't give them the keys to food and to be sustainable, we failed them. We didn't fail us because we didn't give it to them. We failed them. Excellent. Sensory gardens. Who know all the 5 senses? Yes.
So, taste, sense, hearing, touch, and sight.
Do you know the other 2? You're holding one right in your hand. Posture. You're holding a bear. That little toy, that is posture. That is a sense that we don't know that we do. We're teaching kids from when they're born how to sit up. We're teaching children how to walk and waddle. That's balance. We're teaching kids, give me that remote before you hit yourself. They'll hand it to you. Or sometimes they hit themselves. Those are motor skills. Those are easy learning skills that we don't see, that we can use in the garden that I talked about earlier. Thank you for telling me about the 5 senses. Thank you. What's very important is that everybody knows how a rose smells, almost. Everybody knows how a bird whistle, almost. Everybody knows how ketchup tastes, almost. But guess what? When COVID happened, people lost taste. People lost hearing. People lost sight. We lost a lot of natural abilities that we depend on so much that we need to stop and cherish. I got to go back and teach my kids the basic skills. Because like I talked to you earlier at the very beginning, I was okay going to work, driving, had a job, till I got into an accident and became disabled. Since then, I have obtained 3 mild heart attacks, 5 strokes, being in a coma for 6 months, being a successful but broke black farmer. I love this because I want this challenge, because I have to get up and get going and teach another person. Because if I don't do this, there's generational people that I have not taught. So the number that I taught so far is well over at least close to 200,000 people in the past 54 years. So having a sensory garden in your community is very important. No matter what age it is, you have to have some sound. So that way, when people have to cope and they have to get away, they have to have sound. When people have to see colors to escape, they have to have a color spectrum to relax. My youngest son asked me, Dad, can I paint my room black? Can I paint it red? I said, no. Those are the 2 worst colors to put in a room and be isolated. Son, go to your room because you didn't do your homework. You're around darkness, those are triggers. So we have to use light colors for a purpose so that way we can uplift our kids, uplift the community with vibrant, vivid colors. So that's why we have the sensory garden, because we have to have big, tall grass wailing in the grass and in the air that has a sound that nobody ever heard before. In the fall, take your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, your mate, and go for a walk in the fall and listen to the falling leaves. We live in the Great Lakes. We have a sound of leaves falling that other places in the world may not have leaves that fall at all. So we can cherish the sound of ruffling leaves. That is a true sound to capture. Take your phone out and listen to some leaves. Be very quiet for 20 minutes. put a patent on it. Now you can have leaves making a sound and sell that. Because some people have to hear sounds that nobody hears. That's very important because I'm deaf in one ear. So earlier when I was in the cafeteria coming here and a gentleman had spoken, I lost my balance. But he was just saying hello. But he said it with a louder voice that it threw my balance off. So these are tools that we have to cherish, to hold on to, because if not, we failed ourselves, but we also failed the next generation. Recycle. What does that have to do with gardening? What does that have to do with kids? Kids are now going to school with water bottles. Take your water bottle. Don't drink out the water fountain. The reason why I say that, because one, who cleans the water fountains? And I'm not saying don't drink out the water fountains, but I tell my kids that. But I'm not telling you that. But who cleans off the handle and spigot off the water that comes out? TB is out there. Hepatitis is out there. Any heebie-jeebie bugs is out there. So teaching your kid, take your water bottle, don't forget. It's getting them into the routine to stop putting plastics in the ground. Repurposing a bottle to save. These are just crazy, unthinkable things, but think about it. You're saving your kids from getting germs. I'm not saying ever, not ever to drink out of a water fountain. I'm just saying these are practices. Because when we drove here today, we was handed a mask, handed sanitizer. We have to think productively and protect the future. Recycling means more than just one thing. Teaching that younger youth and that younger generation, don't throw trash out there. Don't throw stuff out the window. Pick up your stuff off the table and clean it off. Make sure you finish all your food. Always keep paper clips with you. That way you don't use staples. Think how many staples are in a landfill since they were created. Keeping paper clips, they have a machine that perforates papers together that you don't have to use staples. A lot of municipalities have that. We're teaching ourselves less clutter, less junk, less waste, saving on carbon footprint. Reduce. It goes back to what I talked about earlier that I'm going to talk about now. When you take your mail, yes, we have a lot of plastic. We don't have a lot of ways to use this plastic, but let's eliminate it by not bringing it in our house. Recyclable bags, canvas bags, or repurpose materials that now the textile industry are making things out of clothing wear. But when you have mail, shred it. Take that, put it into a blender, add some flower seeds to it, squeeze it out, let it dry out. Now you have seed bombs that you shredded your paper, and now you can take that, I'm not telling you to litter, but drive down the highway and throw those in a ditch. So now that will help pollinate or help grow wildlife plants. Sunflowers, monarch seeds. My son, he can tell you, I used to take a 50-pound bag, go on the highway, and we would just throw sunflower seeds out in different areas because you don't see plant life growing. When the last time that you've seen a sunflower growing in a ditch, how did it get there? Probably was us. But it was probably a bird that took a seed, ate it, flew away, pooped it out, and now it's growing in another area. Feeding wildlife, help promoting pollinators, help reduce waste, because we all got mail and we throw it in the trash. Recycle our mail and make things out of it. We all buy a case of water bottles. Take those water bottles, turn it upside down, cut it in half, get you some string, put it in your windowsill, and start growing indoor plants by the water bottles that you have. The less water bottles you bring in, the more plants that you can grow with those water bottles. Now you can use permanent, like the young lady right here has a permanent water bottle. We're converting, recycling, reuse, reduce is very important because in the 70s, when I was going with my parents to family road trips, all you could see on both sides of the expressway was trash, tires, a mattress on the expressway, and it was just cluttered. from 1974 going forward, the campaign was recycle. Now we have recycle, reduce, reuse, and renew, but the concept has changed because it's added more ways to save. But teaching the kids nowadays, when you got broken crayons, reuse them, melt them down, add them to other crayons and make a collage and now make an art form. Water bottles. Teach them that when you have a cantaloupe, save your cantaloupe seeds. Cucumbers, save your seeds, dry them out. Put them in water bottles so now you have a collection of seeds in water bottles, and that will be less envelopes that you have to buy. Now, here we go. Willow Run Acres, we talk about garden workshops. Garden workshops is very important. Why are garden workshops important? Because you guys are important. Teaching everybody how to do different workshops is very important. Cold crops, hot crops, winter crops, overwintering crops, indoor gardening, African American history gardening. At Willow Run Acres, pardon me? Oh, at Willow Run Acres, we teach, and we have the only one that's in the nation, the Underground Railroad Garden. Talk about African American history from the 1600s going forward. Robotic gardening. We have robotic gardening that we're going to be doing this year. Why robotic gardening? We're not taking away from the farmer or the gardener. We are helping to complement and have an avenue for people that are blind, wheelchair bound. They should be at the table too. Because if you are disabled and blind and you can use a braille system and punch in a system to look at a carrot, this robot will plant a carrot seed. Only thing that we have to need is to harvest it. It waters, it plants, water plant and weed. So you have to have a person to harvest. So we want people of all aspects at the garden place. Robotic gardening can be used in a good way, but if it's used to advantage to take away from the farmer and the gardener, then that's the bad way. So it's very important to promote gardening in such a way. Meal prep workshops. Teaching kids about having a community garden space at a public school is ideal. Now you teach the kids that we have a 15-minute break with the permission from the school, and you have a good curriculum, which we do, and we would love to partner with anyone, that you're teaching kids that whatever you grow during the garden season, meaning from September to May. And the reason why I say that, because a lot of community gardens are built on school properties, and they grow squash, they grow tomatoes, and they grow eggplant. Who's watching these gardens in the summertime when everybody leaves the school? Now we have food waste that the animals are getting, and then we got complaints from the neighbors that it looks abandoned. I'm telling you, grow things during September to May. So when June gets here, the garden is closed back in May. Now the garden could be asleep, and no one has to maintain it during the summer months. So that way, it's a win-win situation, and it's a controlled situation because saving on food waste, saving on disciplinary actions from the school district saying we don't want your program anymore because you left it a hot mess. We got raccoons, we got rats and rodents, we got neighbors complaining, we got a bee nest that started. Creating a way to do it properly and grow it properly is very important. Farming 101. Start off with the basics. Every year that I teach people how to garden and farm, I get a kick out of it. I always get people that don't know how to use a shovel. There you go. You just knocked over Larry. Sliced him in half. Garden safety is most important. How to handle tools, how to work with tools. If you can work with tools yourself, they don't know how to work with tools. So you got to teach your neighbor, your friend, your cohort, your children how to hold tools. Tools are very important. Mature level is very important. Some people are mature, a lot of people are not. I'm not going to give everybody a shovel. I judge people, stereotype people. I have to, because I can't give everybody shovels, and I can't get everybody a rake. I need you to come over here and hold the lawn bags for me. I do that discreetly because I know that you cannot handle a tool. Can you go over here and harvest these for me and wash them off? Because I delegate. You have to do this. Because if not, you will be out of business and you won't have a program. Safety comes first. Weather preparedness. What's weather preparedness? What's that got to do with gardening and farming? You do not go out into a garden field wet, overheated, no water, by yourself, no cell phone, a backup plan. Because you go out there in that field, just like I said, I've had mild heart attacks and strokes. You go out there in that field by yourself, who knows where you at? You just hit your head on a rock and now you're bleeding out. Now we just lost you. Have to let somebody know, hey, I'm going to the garden, I'll be there at 11 o'clock to about 12:30. Thank you for letting me know. So if I don't see you at 3, 4, and 5, and 7, I need to go back to that garden and find you. Garden safety is important. Have a whistle. My kids know this whistle. I've had this for how many years since you've been born? I'm not going to blow it loud, but my kids know a sound. I have 5 kids, 2 biological and 3 stepchildren. They're still my kids. A whistle is what we was taught in the 70s. That we just don't sit there and yell how kids yell today. Because when you yell today, nobody looks up. Nobody pays attention. Somebody's getting their butt kicked and they're yelling, but we're over here playing pickleball and laughing. Yelling today versus yelling back then is 2 different ways. So we have to go back to safety protocol. Get a system down packed. Let people know where you're at. Look at the weather so that way when you out in the garden space, you know what the weather is going to be. It's an upcoming storm. Am I going to take all this metal equipment out there and start working? And lightning can travel over 200 miles away? That lightning has your name on it. I'm sorry, but it does. Carry only what you can carry. You know you got a whole field to harvest and you by yourself. Do you need to sit there and tire yourself out that you harvested all and you just left 3 baskets of produce out there and I'm going to believe that they're going to be okay tomorrow? Only carry for what you need. Only grow for what you need. Gardening safety is important. Gardening 101 is very important. Write it down. Separate it. Categorize it. Pros and cons. What you can and what you cannot do. And leave it as that. Because the more you add to it, the more you're going to get discouraged. Only take for what you know. Kids are very important. Veganism is more important. Because we have veganism, we have vegetarians. I'm still trying to understand it. But for me, I love fruits and vegetables and herbs. I do eat meat, but I don't sit there and force my way upon you. Just because I'm eating a cheeseburger and I have to come around people that don't eat meat, that is selfish on me. So I have to respect my neighbors. Respect what people eat. Embrace what people eat. There are people that have different faiths, religions that we need to understand, respect, and cherish. Just because I don't worship your God and you don't worship my God and you celebrate this and I don't celebrate that, at the end of the day, we're still going to be mad, we're going to be frustrated, and we didn't get our point across. So when we talk about people that are vegan, vegetarian, respect them. Help them to understand where you're coming from if the time is granted. And hopefully the time is granted that they can do it for you. And if not, mind your own business. Just eat and just keep to yourself. So that way you respect it and they respect it. Get to know your farmer. Have a group of people to come by and get to know other farmers. Have a dairy farmer come by. Have a chicken farmer come by. Have a fish farmer come by. Have a person that talks about quail. Have a flower farmer come by. Like I said earlier, the rainbow of colors of food is very important. Get to know your farmer. Just because you get food from Kroger's, we have to stop that addiction of convenience that is already prepared, washed, and delivered. We just get in our cars and go and get and go back home. We have to keep farmers and the future farmers viable and alive. Now, the learning objectives. The learning objectives of this is to teach. You're teaching. Who heard of Joe Jackson? Who's Joe Jackson?
Yeah, a boxer?
Excuse me, you had your hand? Who's Joe Jackson?
I'm thinking of Shoeless Joe Jackson, the baseball player.
Who heard of Michael Jackson?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Michael Jackson's gay.
What was the main thing about Joe Jackson?
Discipline.
Discipline. And he was very hard on it. You don't have to be a Joe Jackson of gardening and farming. Follow the rules of putting them in space so that way they can properly breathe, but just let things grow. If the plants die, if they grow and they don't produce, it's okay. You don't need to be a drill sergeant for gardening and farming. Create a lesson plan that's enjoyable for others. Don't think about yourself. I'm going to make this because I do this and I do this. And you already went wrong. Create a plan for people that you don't even know. So that way they are attracted to you at the work that you're doing. Math. Yes, math is important. Teaching kids about math, they don't want it. I hate math. But when you got 3 and 4-year-olds, can I have 3 apples? Is this 3? You're teaching them motor skills and thinking skills that they don't have, that now you're giving them the bridge to think. When you give them 2 apples, they got 2 hands. They're going to go like this. Thank you for having those 2 apples. Be vocal about it. Compliment them on what they have done. Don't scold what they're not doing. Math is important. Teaching them about, go get me 2 carrot sticks and go like this. And get me 1 celery. Keep it individual. So that way they know, okay, I got 2 carrot sticks. It's okay. Let's try it again. Let's go get some more. Don't say you did it wrong. Rephrase the way you say it. Apples, square foot gardening is very important. How many lettuce seeds can you get in a square foot? A square foot is 12 inches, 12 inches, 12 inches. You should be able to get 36 lettuce seeds in a square. Who knew? Just look at the back of the package. How many pieces of corn, and how many stalks of corn can you get in a square foot? 1. It has to be in the center. And it has to be 18 inches away from the next corn. Each plant has its own space. Square foot gardening is very important. So when you do a 4-foot four by 8. And my math ain't too well because we're talking about math. But that's almost a way you do square foot gardening. You can got 36 in this one for lettuce. That's not going to crowd this one out because that's radish. It's not going to crowd this one out because that's spinach. You harvest them after 42 days. You got corn here. It has a proper enough space from this to this without overlapping. You got squash that's going to grow here because it needs 36 inches. So you put this one right here. That's it. So that way you don't grow nothing here, and nothing here. Miscellaneous could be onions, could be garlic, something that's only 6 inches apart. Math is hard and complicated. It's disgusting. But you can make it easy and approachable on reading the instructions of the seed packet. It tells you how deep to plant it. If you don't know what 1 inch is, I'm going to show you the easiest 1 inch. The tip of your baby finger is 1 inch. When it sits there and say a 1/4 inch, you go back to your other side, your fingernail, 1/4 inch. You got the cheat sheet in your hand. Math can be approachable in an easy, constructive way without overpopulating everything. Next one. Technology. Technology is important. Buy or go on Craigslist for an old aquarium with the aerator. Now you just get you some styrofoam cups, and I said styrofoam, and put a few rocks in it and put some plants in it. Take away the soil, clean off the soil, put your plants in there, and now you made your own hydroponic system practically less than 20 bucks. Go to the dollar store and get cups. Go on Craigslist and look for a cheap used aquarium for free. Get an aerator at the fish tank store for like $6 or Myers. And what I'm saying is that you can grow indoor plants with the hydroponic system without all the fancy whistles and bells. Real easy. Do it yourself. Solar lights. That kit that I have on the right hand side, you can buy that for less than $60. Growing a solar indoor garden plant inside. And the reason why I say that, getting kids to understand how to use batteries. How to use batteries versus how to use solar. Well, why can't I use a battery? Because we're trying to show you how to grow off the sunlight. We don't need batteries because those go back into the ground. We may need them for certain things, but at least we cut off the dependency of a battery and solar. Teaching them about technology that is just sitting on the table that we're not using. And a regular mason glass. Or when we go to McDonald's and get that clear cup that we drank out of for $1 when we get those large drinks, that plastic cup can be repurposed, reused to put a potato in, or an avocado seed in, or a piece of celery, or a carrot top. Those can regrow out of that plastic cup that we're throwing in the garden, throwing away into the trash. A mason jar is a perfect jar that is solid. It can be reused. Just clear the water out every 2 to 3 days and get fresh water in, so that way you can regrow a plant. Grow sprouts in it. Next one. The last one. I threw a lot of them in. Creativity. Let the kids be creative. Even though we're talking about gardening, let's take a break. Let them do something else. But let them have interest on what they need to have interest in, the right direction, but let kids be kids too. Let them be creative. Because you might be teaching the next brilliant genius, which we are, but if we crowd their space, they are not going to be happy the way we keep being a Joe Jackson or a drill sergeant. We have to let kids be kids. Sand and water. Kids love to play in water. How many times have you had your kids in the bathroom sink playing in the water? Playing with the, who used all my soap? I was just washing my hands. That much? Let kids play in water and in sand. It's fun. But have limits to it. Kids, yoga. Get them into yoga. Mindfulness. Relaxation is most important. Mindfulness and yoga, you don't have to go through the whole 9 yards of it, but just give them some of the basics. So that way they can be themselves and use the power from within themselves. Exercise. Getting kids to exercise, we have to do that. Because if we don't, we are setting ourselves up for heart disease, obesity, laziness. So we have to, let's go and jog around the house. If you live in an apartment, use your steps as a free way of saying Planet Fitness. Use your steps inside and just go up the steps 3 times a day. Set yourself a goal. Some phones have apps for free. How many steps are we doing? My goal that I have set, I have to do 10,000 steps a day. I have to do that because I've had a stroke. I've had a mild heart attack. So I have to stay fit. I have to keep myself circulating. I have to do this. Set your own goal. Go on Walgreens. Sign up for Walgreens and look at the program and see if they got a reward program that you can get a gift card for all these steps that you're doing. So that way you are rewarded for that. Seed library. Goes back again to the cantaloupe, the watermelon, the apple, the pear. Save these seeds because you're throwing these seeds into the ground, into a trash heap that's in another community that will never grow. Save these seeds. Teaching kids that We're going to have a lemonade stand and a yard sale. Let the kids sell their seeds so that way they get the entrepreneurial spirit to make money. It goes back down to the banking and financing. Teaching them how to make a journal. Teaching them to be creative. Teaching them to write down their responsibilities of managing money. Give them an allowance to subliminally buy some seeds. Let's go and check out the new seed selection. They may not like it, but they're going to start liking it. But we have to start saving our seeds, because if we don't, we already have the two seed giants taking over the seed industry. We don't have that many heirloom seeds. Teaching the kids what it means about GMO, teaching them to know about seeds, and teaching them to know about heirloom and heritage seeds is very important. Then we got equipment. And if you see that picture up there at the top, that is my son. Every year, take him to a farm and just say, hey, excuse me, I don't know you and you don't know me, but can my kids sit on your farm equipment? Because they will never get to have a chance to sit on a tractor unless you ask. Give them that opportunity. A lot of times we have fire trucks that come to the school, but when the last time that you've seen a tractor come to the school? I'm just saying. Give them the opportunity of farm life. And then the food bank. Go back one more. The food bank. In schools, I'm poor. I'm on a bridge card. Just because I teach gardening and farming doesn't mean I'm well off. I am poor. I hand out food. I hand out food to people that need it first before I take it. That's how I was raised. Teaching the kids how to collect food and give back to other people that are needed. Our neighbors are needed. So having a seed bank, having a food bank in the schools, your churches, your synagogues, your mosques, create these ways to connect with our neighbors. No matter who we are neighbors. Thank you. So again, my name is Farmer TC. Again, I'm the oldest black farmer in Washtenaw County of 54 years plus. I love doing this. And my mission is to make sure that food justice, food sovereignty is obtainable. Also, I teach about soil health, because in our community, 60 by 150 by 12 foot thick, our soil was taken out of our community. It was rich black dirt. And it was given to white farmers on the other side of town. And we never got our dirt back. That is something that is very dire for me. That is in the community of Willow Run. That's the picture you have there. Teaching gardening and farming is important. Please share it. Don't hold it in, because the next day might be you that might be disabled, that might not have a place to eat or live, that you may be on the other receiving end that may need help. Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, I have three. So, you were talking about the seed biscuit.
Yes.
That's the one. And then I was curious, you said something about trees that where the leaves don't drop. I've never heard of that. And I was wondering if you could tell me what that was. And then the Underground Railroad Garden.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the first one about the seed biscuits. We changed the name from seed bombs,
Oh, okay.
because seed bombs, when you're in school, that's the last thing you need your kids to say is bombs.
Yeah, it does make sense. Thank you.
Yes. So for us, one of our teammates, she created the word biscuit. So that way it's eco-friendly, safe environment for the kids, so that way we don't get the police called on our kids. As far as where the leaves fall,
Yeah.
think about it in the rainforest.
Okay.
Think of it as in Australia or in Hawaii or in the tropics. Leaves in those regions rarely fall. But then when you are in the higher mountains and you have evergreens, the needles don't fall. So we have to think about where leaves don't fall. And those people that live in those regions, they don't experience what we experience. So capturing sound is most important. So when you go by a rumbling brook, when the last time you've been by a rumbling brook? But if you go by the lake, you hear the lake clapping, but do you hear a rumbling brook? Two different sounds. When you go to Fort Lake, or when you go to Lake Michigan, or you go to your local lake, these lakes have a sound that when you're stuck in the house in the wintertime, man, I wish I could go to the lake today. You remember those sounds. You remember that relaxation. When the last time you heard snow fall? I'm gonna wait till I see somebody raise their hand. You have?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, I have.
Could you explain about that for us?
It feels like it's soft, like there is, how do I explain snow falling? I know that there is a sound, and I don't know how to describe it, I really don't, but I can hear it.
Yeah. And you're the first person in 54 years that said yes. But yes, it is a truly lovable sound. Yes?
There's thunderstorm and snow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 And these are sounds that we are lucky enough to hear it, but who actually recorded it? So all I'm asking is that when you think about a sensory garden and you want to create these sensory gardens, how to add components and elements to your garden, that one day that you have these recordings of snow falling. You have sounds of a rumbling brook. You have sounds of a waterfalls or rain falling. When it rains, when it first starts to sprinkle, I take my phone and I turn it upside down so it doesn't show the rearview mirror, and I let the rain fall on the windshield as it's falling, and it gives you a different look at rain coming at the window. Why do I do this? Because I want to see things different that I haven't never seen before. We have the opportunity to have a cell phone to do things that we've never done before. So I want to see rain hitting the windshield. What does it look like? And take a picture of it. Seeing a flower slowly opening. I don't have the money for technology to have a time-lapse camera, but we have tools on the internet that can provide that for us. But yes, hearing snowfall, when you hear that, you're going to be jumping up for joy like, I heard it. And when you tell other people that, it's going to spread like wildfire.